Hi again everyone. Well, we're nearly at the halfway mark for your Project 4, so by now you should have a pretty good idea of exactly what you want to be doing for your session. I'd expect that you've already organised the time, date and venue for your training, you've chosen your unit of competency and you've determined and contextualised which performance criteria you want to cover. Hopefully, you've also created and sent out an individual training needs analysis to see exactly what level your students might be at. If you've done these things, you've already got the fundamentals for a fantastic session right there. Easy. Before we delve into the building of the assessment, we need to look at the language literacy and numeracy associated with the training that you're delivering and the learners themselves. As you might remember, there are numerous ways to ascertain an individual or a group's ACSF levels. There's observation, interviews, surveys, HR records, even assessment that relates to the training that you're delivering. Whatever method you decide on, continue to ask yourself, is this the best way to really understand my client's LLN abilities? If you're not sure, check out the manual. There's heaps of good information in there to make this exercise a bit easier. Particularly, check out the information on trigger words when rating the ACSF levels of your unit of competence. Accompanying this video, I'll give you the link to a government-based website that aided us in creating our ACSF training. Okay, now you know the information you wish to convey. You know your client's abilities, you know your time frames. So next we start building our session. Number 1, objectives. Remember, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Your objectives will be placed in the appropriate place in your session plan. There's no need to create another document, and don't go for too many objectives either. Remember, your objectives are for the session that you're training, not for the entire unit. So check out your manual and try and remember some of the rules surrounding the building of great objectives. Do you remember we talked about Bloom's taxonomy of learning, where we discussed in class cognitive, affective and psychomotor? If you're a bit fuzzy, then it's all in your manual, it's there to remind you. So the first part of your objective will say what they're going to do and the level of achievement of how this will be done. For example, accurately cut, consistently demonstrate, have a clear understanding of. Then you follow this with specifics like accurately cut, which is your doing or level of achievement and level of achievement, a piece of timber to plus or minus 1 millimetre of a given length. That's the specific. Doing this correctly leaves you in no doubt as to what you're trying to achieve from your session. Now, while we're talking about objectives, do yourself a favour and revise the must know, should know, could know stuff that we talked about in class, and SMART objectives. One last hint for building objectives is preface your objective with the phrase, by the end of this session, students should have the ability to, and then roll into your objective. Easy? Of course it is. But email your trainer if you have any dramas. Now that you've figured out your objectives, how do we ensure our students understand what we've delivered? Well, I know you know the answer to this. It's easy. We assess them. Consider what you trained. Is it knowledge-based or is it practical? Could you assess with a question and answer style of assessment, or is it more suited to observational assessment? You'll work that out. But don't forget, you must have 2 different styles of assessment to include in your session. So you may want to go over the critical aspects of evidence and the range statement in your unit of competence to give you some hints on what would be a suitable method of assessment that you could use. Think back to your Project 1 when you went through all of the different styles of assessment that you could use. Written and verbal Q&A, demonstrations, scenarios, case studies, even role plays if you want. If you can, try having a balance of theory and practical. It's a great way to suit all of the learning needs of your students. But whatever method you use, benchmarks are essential. Have all of your anticipated answers ready before you even deliver your course. And when it comes time to hand in your Project 4, make sure your benchmarks are included. While you're creating your assessment, you want to check that you're covering as much of the performance criteria as possible. In the long run, it's going to make life much easier for you and your student to develop one piece of assessment that covers several performance criteria rather than the other way around. Save yourself some time by thinking about what performance criteria you can cluster into that one piece of assessment. To help with this, you could also be completing your assessment matrix. Try and get that done this week as well. For those of you that may be having some trouble deciding on how or what you're going to assess your students with, you do well to use this template 11 in your USB. Working with this document in conjunction with your unit of competence may just help you think of some other methods of assessment that possibly hadn't crossed your mind before. This document's probably one of the most helpful tools that you can have as a training developer, as you can use it as a visual tool to see if you actually did cover everything that you needed to. It's a very, very useful tool that you should use. So let's recap on this week. 1. Complete your LLN exercise by creating a spiky graph and letting me know what tools you use to determine the ACSF levels. 2. Build your objectives and place them in your session plan. 3. Cluster and build your assessment. 4. Create your benchmarked answers in readiness for your delivery. And 5. Create an assessment matrix for your entire unit of competence. It sounds like a lot, but really a lot of those things you know quite well and you'll cover easily. Well, that's our suggestions on what you should be focusing on for this week. Once again, if you have any questions or concerns, you're always welcome to contact us. Don't forget to check out the LLN website we give you. It's called What Works, and it's a really, really good resource. I hope this helps. Cheers.